Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. I'm Shah and this is Thoroughly Enjoyed Books. It is Tuesday the 23rd of June when you are watching it, and I move house on the 1st of July. So as I've already mentioned, these are the few books remaining and will probably be the last things that I remove from my house so that my backgrounds are actually, kind of bookish. Today I am here to do the mid-year book freakout tag. I don't do tags often. Saying that, I think I have done a few recently, but I don't do them very often, and I kind of need to have an easy-ish kind of schedule at the minute. I need things that don't need too much brain power because I'm spending all my time packing my stuff. I have also started a secret project, which I'll hopefully be announcing soon, that is taking up a lot of my time. It's almost like a second job at the minute. I've got so much going on that I haven't got the brain power to think of anything else to do. But before we get into the mid-year book freakout tag, of course I need to do my shout out for today. And today I'm going to be shouting out Fadwa from Word Wonders. If you are not subscribed to Fadwa already, what are you doing? If you like queer lit at all, if you like female romances, sapphic books, female attraction type books, go and check her out because she has got so many book recommendations for you. You know, a few videos ago I had a little bit of a rant about how you're not looking in the right places if you can't find what you're looking for. Fadwa has got massive lists of Muslim representation and female romance, sapphic, LGBT representation, all that jazz. She has got so much of it. So go over to her channel and just check her out because she's great. And she deserves so many more subscribers than she has. Also, her makeup is always on point. Can I just say that? Her makeup skills. Moving on to the mid-year book freakout tag. There are 13 questions in this tag, and initially I wanted to have a different answer for every question. However, I got to a point where some of them just had to be a particular book that I will get onto. So the first question is the best book that you have read so far this year. And I'm kind of cheating here because this book is like my favourite book of all time and I reread it this year, but it is still my favourite book that I've read this year, and it is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I absolutely adore this book. I made a video reacting to 1-star reviews of this book. My attitude in there is exaggerated. I don't obviously think those things, but I was very upset by those reviews. I love this book. I have so many other videos planned about this book. Shannon and I read this in the beginning of May, I think it was. After watching the TV show, we both adore it. We both love it. Go and check out her videos if you want to know more about Normal People because it has my whole entire heart. The next question is, what is the best sequel that you've read this year? Now, I think this is meant to be a book that you maybe read last year and have, picked up the sequel this year and enjoyed. However, I don't think I've read any sequels of series that I started before this year. However, there are 2 books that have amazing sequels that I have read this year, and I also read the first book this year, so books that I am reading the series of. And I think the one that I'm going to have to go with is A Duke by Default by Alyssa Cole. This is fantastic. So this is a romance. It is set in Scotland, and I listened to the audio book of this, which was an experience. Our main love interest is meant to be Scottish, but the narrator of the audiobook puts on like an Irish African accent, and it's odd. This is the sequel to A Princess in Theory, which I read early this year and just didn't enjoy. Basically, that book follows our main character Letty, and she is tracked down by Prince Thabiso and finds out that she was betrothed to a prince, and it starts off with her thinking it's a Nigerian scam. And I love the premise of it, but I just didn't love the relationship in that book. But so many people raved about the series that I continued it, and I'm so glad that I did because A Duke by Default is fantastic. It follows Portia, who is Letty's best friend from the first book, who moves to Scotland to do a swordsmith apprenticeship, which the concept, and she falls in love with Tavish, who is the owner of the armoury, who's teaching her how to make swords, if you get what I mean. That was an awful joke that didn't even make sense. I loved this book. I preferred the relationship between Portia and Tavish so much. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was silly and hilarious in the best way. Like, they're making swords together. I was completely and utterly blown away by this book. I loved it. And then I also read the novella sequel, which is Once Ghosted, Twice Shy, which is a female romance. And I loved it. All of these books are black romances as well. They are written by a black author, so go and check her out because she's fantastic. The next 2 questions in this tag focused on new releases, and I am notoriously bad at new releases. So there isn't a new release out that I'm looking forward to, which is the 3rd question. But then the 4th question is a book that you're excited to come out in the second half of the year. There is one book that has come to mind that I'm so excited for, and it is Greek Myths, and it is written by the lovely Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts. Now, if you are not subscribed to Jean, I don't know why you subscribe to me, but I've known Jean for about 7 years. It has been a really long time. She is doing a PhD in classics. She's just phenomenal, and she has written this children's book that has beautiful illustrations. I've had this pre-ordered, however I am struggling to redirect my address, which is mad because obviously I'm moving. This book comes out on, I believe, the 16th of July. I know it's in July, and it's stunning, and I'm not going to say anything else because I think the book explains itself. Also, Jean is fantastic, so go and subscribe to Jean. I can't wait for this book to come out. I can't wait. Number 5 is my biggest disappointment, and I hate to say it, but it was The Unbinding of Mary Read by Miriam McNamara. This was meant to be a queer pirate book, and I was so excited for the relationship in this. It basically follows Mary Read and Anne Bonny, and they get it on. However, this book makes me so angry. It is transphobic, it is biphobic, there is so much sexual violence, which is used as a punishment for a female sexuality. As much as that is kind of my topic, if you don't know, I'm doing a master's in modern literature, and I'm doing it on female sexuality. So even though that is something that I'm interested in, I don't like this idea of punishment for female sexuality, especially when it's a queer relationship. And it was literally just used as a punishment. I hated it. And the whole book, like I said, it was transphobic, it was biphobic. I was so excited to discover that this main character was going to be bisexual until it made out that she was greedy and couldn't make her mind up. There were just so many biphobic tropes in this book that my blood was boiling. It is also transphobic. There are so many uncomfortable comments made about gender in this book. So disappointed. So disappointed, because this sounds right up my alley. It is queer, it is pirates, but it ain't it. Number 6 is the biggest surprise, and for me this was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This book was sent to me by Katie from Brightlist Katie Reads. Go subscribe to her, she's lovely, and I thought I would enjoy this book. I heard so many wonderful things about this book, and I knew that I had to pick it up. There was no 2 ways about me having to pick it up. I thought I would enjoy it, but I didn't realise how much I would enjoy it. I thought I was maybe a bit too old for it, because this came out when I was 17 and I'm now 25, and I thought, oh, I've left it maybe a bit too long to enjoy this series. But everyone was telling me to read it, and I loved it even more than I thought I would. And I think I enjoyed it more now than I would have when I was 17, which is a weird concept. This is about a fortune teller and a group of boys who go on an adventure discovering ley lines, which we're not quite sure what they are. We just know that Gansey, who is one of our male main leads, is really fascinated by these, and they might have some sort of magical psychic link, but we don't know what that is. And we don't actually know very much about anything in this book, but I loved it. I know a lot of people have said it's really slow, and I can kind of see that, but I kind of enjoyed that about it. It wasn't too intense. It was taking its time telling the story and building this world, which I loved. And yeah, I'm so surprised by how much I loved it that had to be the one I mentioned. Next, we have a favourite new author. So this is either someone who's had a debut or they're just new to you. And for me, that is going to have to be Michelle Harrison. Michelle Harrison wrote A Pinch of Magic, which I read earlier this year. That up until recently was my favourite book that I had read this year. I just missed out when I reread Normal People. Maybe I should have mentioned it anyway, but I knew it would come up later on in this video. Michelle Harrison writes mainly middle grade children's books, and I love her books. I've only read 2, or even actually 1.5. So I've read A Pinch of Magic, and I'm currently halfway through A Sprinkle of Sorcery, and these are stories, fantasy stories that focus on 3 young girls, the Widdishin sisters. I love things about sisters, I love things about adventures, and I think these books are so much deeper for middle grade than anything I've ever read, and I just find them so fun. I just love the dynamic, I love the characters, I love the adventures. She's one of my favourite authors at the minute, and I can't wait to read more by her. Okay, now we're moving on to the 4 questions that are all going to be the same book because I can't separate them. So the 4 are a new favourite crush, newest favourite character, a book that made you cry, and a book that made you happy. And I can't talk about anything other than You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This is another female-female romance, sapphic book. This is about Liz Lighty, who is bisexual. She's also black, which is, you know, one of the reasons I read this, because I'm trying to read more black fiction, like everybody else on BookTube at the minute, but I'm trying to make it an actual thing that I do regularly, not just that I'm doing this month. So I picked this up because it was on Scribd. Not knowing that the main character was bisexual, I thought she was a lesbian. So when I found out she was bisexual, and her soul, her spirit is just so fun. I love her. She is the closest thing to a fictional crush that I've had in a really long time. My heart. So she's also my answer for number 9, which is a new favourite character. And then question number 10, obviously a book that makes you cry and a book that makes you happy. I cried happy tears at this book because I was just so happy to read about a teen character who's bisexual, who is so unapologetically herself. She didn't have to hide this from her friends. She was out. It wasn't a big deal. It was just part of the story. We didn't have to deal with any of her internal conflict with her sexuality or any of that confusion. We just got somebody happy with their self, with their sexuality, and who eventually got to be happy. And I just love that. It made me cry, happy tears. I just want more of this. I want so much more of this, and its own voices as well, so that's really important. It's by Leah Johnson, if I haven't mentioned it, who is a black bisexual, and I love this intersection of fiction at the minute. I love it. It isn't my favourite book by a long shot. I did have some problems with it, and I'm going to talk about that in my wrap up at the end of the month, but the bisexual representation of this book made me so happy. Number 12 is the most beautiful book that I've bought this year, and I'm struggling with this one because I had picked out a couple until I realised that I actually got them last year. So I can't really mention them. The one I think I'm going to go for is A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison. This is the second book in this series, which I've already talked about. I just think this cover is gorgeous. The illustrations are phenomenal, and it's so shiny and it looks really nice on my bookshelf. I maybe have a more pretty book, but off the top of my head I can't think of any, so it's going to be this one. All of her books are gorgeous. They're all glinted and decorative, and there's little hints to the story all over the covers. They're lovely. And then the last question is question number 13 on what books do you need to get to by the end of the year. So I have a lot on this list, and obviously I haven't got a lot of my books with me at the minute, so I was really struggling to think of some. Obviously these books are ones that I want to get to really, really soon because that's why I've kept them out. However, the 2 that I have picked are On the Come Up by Angie Thomas and Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. These are books that I have had on my TBR for so long. They keep making it into TBR videos when I do make TBR videos, which isn't very often, but every time I make one, they're in it. I was meant to read On the Come Up for the Dog-Eared Book Club back in May, but didn't. We're currently on a bit of a hiatus with the Dog-Eared Book Club just because there's so much going on that it's hard to concentrate, and I'm just not getting to the books half the time. So this is by the same author as The Hate You Give, and it is about a young girl who wants to be a rock star and following her father's footsteps. Her father has passed away a few years ago, and that's kind of something that she's dealing with in this book as well. And then Queenie is one that I have actually started and then put down. I started it for the mental health-a-thon in May, and I just couldn't get into it. I've been struggling to read physical books lately, so that is one that I'm really, really eager to get to. It's one that I've tried to not know much about, but I'm hopeful that I will get to that one pretty soon. So that was the mid-year book freakout tag. Let me know if you have read any of these books, and if you have, what did you think of them? I'd really love to know, especially your favourite books of the year, because I want to get to them. I want to get to all my books, but I want to get to everyone's favourites as well. I don't know, I just want to read, but I can't. I'm struggling guys. As usual, I'll leave all my links in the description box down below. Go and follow me on Twitter and Goodreads and all that good stuff. Don't forget to subscribe to all of the people that I have mentioned in this video as well. I guarantee you will all of their channels if you like watching me. And I can't wait to see you in another video very, very soon. Take care. Bye.